go. All right, so just at the start of everything, of all these episodes, all these lives, since I've been doing them recently and still getting the hang of things, obviously I'll take the first couple of minutes just to, check intermittently here and there at the video and the audio and everything. So it's looking okay here. It's looking okay. The connection says we got excellent connection, so that seems to be good. And then let's check the audio and everything like that. Seems to be good. Testing. Yep. Okay. All right. Just like to make sure that we have everything going before we get going, because I don't want to waste a lot of time on that. But anyways, so welcome to Let's Talk Television episode 5 now we're on. And I thought this week would be kind of topical, kind of interesting to talk about Suits LA. And what has kind of happened with the show so far. So I'll talk about kind of just my thoughts on, generally. We'll start off with when I talk about this week in TV. So I'll talk about all those TV shows that I'm watching. Of course, Suits LA is one of them. So I'll talk about my thoughts just generally about Suits, but then also kind of our main topic here I want to talk about, the problem with spinoffs and pretty much like what Suits LA kind of represents as a bigger problem right now with spinoff shows that I've just kind of been seeing, or this is just kind of my thoughts, of course, and we'll kind of go into that, and then of course some news topics at the end of the show as usual. So we'll touch on a couple articles, and a couple like Walking Dead City, the premiere date for season 2 came out, and new Owen Wilson Apple TV Plus comedy show, some news about that. So so lots to discuss this week, and I haven't done one of these for a couple weeks now, and so I'm trying to do kind of bi-weekly, maybe weekly if it happens. But I do have like a lot of shows that I watched this week, and just there's a lot of stuff going on in TV right now. I think just in terms of all the premieres for these shows. I think April is going to be a big month as well. So just seems like a really busy time. So maybe I will try to do kind of more episodes of this. Try to do weekly, and I still do want to have guests on as well. Where I can talk to some other people with this show as well. So yeah, lots of potential here for that kind of thing. Okay, so let's just make sure we're good there. We're good there. And the audio is all good still? Okay. All right. All right. Let's get into this one then. So yeah. So it'll be the start of this one is This Week in TV, what I've been typically doing, right, for all these episodes of Let's Talk Television so far. And this week, I think, is the most shows I've watched. And technically, not all of these are this week, but just kind of shows that I've been checking in on, and I did not talk about in last 2 weeks episode of Let's Talk Television. So first one, as advertised, is Suits LA Season 1. Of course, this is on NBC. And, the Suits spinoff. So I did do a review for the pilot episode of Suits LA, and that's on the channel. And I don't know. So I watched, I think, episode 2 now. I have not seen the new episode that just premiered, last night, on NBC, it premiered last night. I think it was today on Peacock or whatever, right? So I haven't watched the newest episode, but just based off the first 2 episodes, I wanted to talk about this because, I feel like I was more positive on the pilot, actually, than a lot of people. Even in that review on the channel, I said, yes, it is very similar to Suits, and we'll get into that in a little bit when I talk about the spinoffs and all that. But yes, it is similar to Suits, but I thought, it's fine. It is similar, but it is also different in some cases, and I think it actually, was pretty good. As a network pilot, I thought it was okay, right? I thought it was pretty good. People just downright hating this pilot, trashing it right out of the gates. I just didn't agree with that, I just didn't see that. I thought there was actually a couple of good twists in there that Aaron Korsh kind of threw at us, and, the writer and creator of Suits, and also writing and creating this new show. I don't know. I thought I was a little more positive on it than other people, I think. But episode 2 really made me look bad because, not in that way, though. It is still very much in the same vein as the pilot episode. It is, the same tone of the show, the same approach that they're going with. But the writing, man, there was just some stuff. And of course, there was moments in Suits, the original show, that if you look back now, take off our rose-colored glasses maybe, or especially me, this is the way I think about it, but there were some moments in Suits that were kind of ridiculous, that were kind of, the writing wasn't that strong at times, but I think it was kind of, and this is what I saw a lot of people talk about, the pilot, right, is, yeah, there was these moments in the original show, but it was kind of made up by having Harvey and Mike and that duo and just having that kind of charm to it that this show is just missing, right? And again, this is what I said in the pilot, though, in my review. I said, this is only one episode. Like, Suits had 9 seasons, to go into things and for people to really get attached to it. And I don't know. I didn't watch Suits live in season 1, so I'm not exactly sure what the response was at that time. But I would bet a lot of money, right, that it was not, at the same degree, of course, as it is now after the show is done, after we've seen seasons, more than 100 episodes of that dynamic of the show playing out. And so I think it's too harsh to judge Suits LA already on the pilot and say, oh, it's just missing that charm or whatever. Like, that's something that takes a while to develop. So anyways, but of course, yeah, in these first 2 episodes, it's missing that, right? And so you get the bad writing at times. You get some really kind of ridiculous moments here. And you don't have that charm quite yet. The show hasn't quite found its footing with those characters. And so it's a little rocky. So yeah, that episode 2, to me, was quite a bit of a step down from that pilot episode, just in terms of like the writing. I mean, there's just some ridiculous moments that happen. Stephen Amell is a prosecutor, right? A district, what do they call him? District attorney, right? Like a DA, right? And so he's a prosecutor in these flashbacks of Suits LA, and he like goes on a raid and arrests this guy, and then he's like interrogating him in the room, and it's like, what are we doing? Like, I don't know, last time I checked, maybe in like small towns or something, but he's supposed to be in New York, so definitely not in this case. But DAs are not the ones that go arrest suspects, right, and do raids on them in bulletproof vests. And they're also not the ones who are in the interrogation room trying to get stuff from them. Like, isn't that detectives that do that? Like, again, maybe in like a small town or something where they don't have enough people, maybe. But like New York? So anyway, it's just like little things like that. And it's like, come on. Like, that's just unbelievably ridiculous. And so, yeah, there was just some moments like that and some pacing issues. Now, again, I don't mind the Lex Scott Davis and Brian Greenberg. That dynamic is okay so far. I think there's potential for that kind of charm, for that stuff to come back. Will it be as good as Harvey and Mike? Probably not, right? Like, that's going to be hard. That's a high bar to replicate or to capture again. So, anyways, yeah, I just, episode 2 really let me down in that regard. Though I am definitely on board at least until Harvey comes in, and I've heard that it's episode 4 that's happening. Aaron Korsh, is the creators, kind of hinted at that, I think, though I don't think it's been confirmed. And I do have, I read some reviews that said he isn't actually in, I think it's the first 4 episodes, but I could be incorrect. So perhaps it's episode 5 then, or maybe it's like a teaser at the end of episode 4. Whatever it happens to be, I do want to stay until Harvey comes in, because I just think that's a moment that I have to see. Being such a huge Suits fan, and wanting to see Harvey there. So, and I think, and I'll talk about this in my spinoffs, but I think having Harvey in the show, even if it's just for a limited amount of time, it might bring a little bit of that charm back and might kind of explain a little bit more of what's the point of this show. And if you have Harvey back in and you try to tie the Suits world into things, maybe it might come together a little better. So we'll have to see. But yeah, I'm definitely going to stick around until Harvey comes in, whether that's, if it's like beyond episode 5, I might have second thoughts, and the show is like not improving at all at that point. But at least, the first 4 episodes or whatever it is, I do want to stick around and see what they have in store for us, what Aaron Korsh and his writing team have in store, with Harvey coming in there for sure. So those are my thoughts on Suits LA, a disappointing second episode, and I have not watched the third one yet. Probably will do that tonight after this, actually. But hoping for better for sure. But yes, I'll talk more about Suits LA lots as we get going. So next then is The White Lotus season 3 that I checked out, and again, I have not seen the most recent episode that premiered last night on HBO, and so I can't remember, I think it was just episode 1, right? It was just episode 1 that I watched and talked about in last television episode. So this one is episode 2 and 3. I think 4 just premiered last night, so 2 and 3. And yeah, it's kind of just the same thought, I think, as, what I kind of share my thoughts on the first episode. Maybe a little bit more negative in just that it's been 2 more episodes and it's kind of just the same thing, and the same criticism that I had with the first episode. Though I am, again, I did say I haven't, season 1 and 2, I did not, I don't think I finished all the way through. Season 1 I definitely didn't, and season 2 I'm not sure if I finished all the way through, but I do think that season 3 might be my favorite season so far, or like the best season, I think. And that's just so far. Again, like it could kind of fall out maybe later on, and I know it's 8 episodes rather than 7 in season 2, so we have another whole hour here, but it really does seem like kind of a wolf in sheep's clothes here, or maybe the opposite, actually. It's like a sheep in wolf's clothes, this show right now, because you have actors like Walton Goggins, Michelle Monaghan, Leslie Bibb, Carrie Coon, the list goes on, right? Jason Isaacs, Parker Posey, Amy Lou Wood, even you want to throw in there. Like, you have these big names, and I will say I think the show was beautifully shot. Like, I think Mike White, as a director, deserves a lot of credit because he's doing a great job. Also, some great cinematography work as well. So, I mean, the directing-wise, there's a little bit of comedy in there, but for the most part, it's just a lot of, it looks nice, it feels nice, but then when you think about it, after these first 3 episodes, I'm just kind of left wanting more. Like, there's just something left to be desired there, and we just haven't really got anything. And this is the thing that I think in season 2 bothered me as well, is it's just these moments that Mike White sets up, and he's kind of teasing at something, and you're kind of, you get to the edge of your seat, you're like, oh, what's going to happen? And then they just completely kill it, and then nothing really happens. I kind of actually had this a little bit of an issue with Severance too, which I got to catch up on for season 2. I'm a couple episodes behind now. But that's kind of been a little bit of an issue, not as big as this, but a little bit of an issue with Severance too, is that we set things up, we get these moments, and then you just don't pay it off. And that's what season 3 is so far. It's like, oh, here's this moment. This might actually explain some things. Oh, okay, here we go. And then, no. It's just they completely kill it. It ends up being nothing. And then we watch the next week, and it's nothing again. So, yeah, it's just a little frustrating. I've seen some similar thoughts now online, and so, I don't know. Maybe I'm just missing this, and I will, obviously this has not been my favorite show. I think I've just not quite gotten it on the same level that other people have from the very beginning, and so that could be the case too. But yeah, so I don't know about White Lotus season 3. I might watch more. At this point, I'm not 100% sure if I'll watch another episode. And that's the thing. I also really love Walton Goggins, of course. And, he was one of the main reasons I wanted to check the season out and really get into it. And it's just a little disappointing. Him himself, he's great. I mean, he's given a great performance, but they don't give him a lot to work with. And that's just so disappointing, to see him and all his potential he has, especially for these types of characters that have a lot of energy, that have, a lot of stuff to them. And this one is just very, and again, this could change. I feel like they are setting up something for him, but right now it's just disappointing to see the kind of lack of energy, of just like anything really to this character. He's just so low key and so reserved. And I just feel like we're wasting that Walton Goggins potential. So yeah, disappointing for season 3 of The White Lotus. And so I'm not sure if I'll check it anymore. All right, next then is The Americas on NBC. So this is just a kind of a nature documentary show narrated by Tom Hanks. Again, I think I'm a couple episodes behind because these 2 just aired last night. Right now, Sunday nights, there I think is, I want to say 6, but there maybe even could be 7 shows right now that are airing on Sunday nights that I'm watching right now. it's an absolutely insane thing that all these shows are on Sunday night at the same, or like literally at the same time too. So even if I wanted to watch them live, I literally couldn't unless I had like, 6 different monitors going at once or something. But yeah, it's insane. But anyways, this is another Sunday night one narrated by Tom Hanks. And yeah, I just thought I'd mention it. I really like it. I think it's actually a really strong show so far. Just very, it is a little network, right? So it's not, there's commercial breaks and they do kind of set things up. It's a little bit of a cliffhanger. What's going to happen to, this raccoon in this scene? And then they go to commercial. And so there's a little bit of that. But if you can, put up with that, I think it's just as good as any other kind of nature show. Maybe even better. I've really liked it so far in what they have in store. And I'm kind of a fan of these. What was it? Our Planet. I think on Netflix. There's a couple other Netflix ones that I've liked recently, and so just something kind of cool to put on, outside of all these scripted shows. Yeah, I really like it so far. Honestly, I think it's pretty great. So yeah, and also obviously cool to have Tom Hanks narrated. I think he's great, a great voice for it. So yeah, so that's that. And then next is The Hunting Party Season 1 on NBC. So do want to mention this one. And it really is a shame that I missed this. I really did. I really dropped the ball on this one because I really tried to look out for new pilots on especially network, and probably do reviews for them on the channel. I've been trying to do some more of that, check out some more network shows and cover them. And so this one I dropped the ball. I really am sad about it, to be honest. I really would have liked to review it on the channel, maybe even talked about a few more episodes, but it premiered in January. I think the end of January was the pilot episode for The Hunting Party, starring Melissa Roxburgh, who was, of course, the star of Manifest. And what other show was she in? I think she was in some other shows as well before that. I'm forgetting. But anyways, so I just thought this was and then I heard about the show for the first time like last week, so that's how I dropped the ball. But I think it's just a really interesting concept. It's basically there's this top secret prison that's been housing serial killers that people have thought they killed, but actually they revive them or keep them alive and house them in this secret underground prison, which explodes, and then a bunch of the inmates get out. And so now Melissa Roxburgh is our main character, and she's charged with, each episode basically tracking down a new serial killer that's been, that was imprisoned there, that's escaped. And at the same time, we have this kind of mystery of, what is this prison? Why were they keeping them down there? And, in the pilot, they raised the question of, was this on purpose, right? Like, was this jailbreak, on purpose? Was it an accident? Who would want them out in the world? So a lot of, a really interesting mystery to go along with it. So I don't know, when I heard that concept and even watching this pilot, I think it's just, I don't want to say like brilliant because I think that's overstating it, but I think it's just a great concept for a show to set up something like that where, okay, you have a crime of the week, right? You have a killer of the week that you're tracking down. And then you also have the kind of mystery box element of it, where you have the mystery and you have kind of this intrigue into what's going on. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously it's not like groundbreaking. This isn't a new thing, but I just think it's a really great concept. I think it's just a really great recipe for what could be a good, long-lasting show, and the reviews for it are unbelievable to me. I mean, like, I think Rotten Tomatoes has like an 18%, only like 2 critics actually gave it a positive review out of like 15 or something, and I just can't believe that. I mean, looking at other network shows right now, especially, you look at Law and Order, Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, Fire Country, like, it's all these shows, right? What's other one? Like, Blue Bloods, I think, just ended. But anyways, all of those shows, right? Like, it's either a fire, medical, or police drama. Like, that is basically the extent of network TV right now, and has been for quite a few years. Yes, you get shows like The Hunting Party, but they're canceled like almost always after the first season, and they don't really give it time to catch on, which is pretty much what these shows need, right? Like a show like Fringe would never happen today because they just won't give it a chance. And so in that world of network TV, this show, like, I watched the pilot and I'm thinking, an 18%, only 2 critics gave this a positive review. I was shocked by that. I really was. I think this is one of the better pilots, one of the better concepts, at least, that I've seen on network TV in a few years. That's just me. So anyways, this pilot wasn't groundbreaking. It wasn't insane. There are a couple twists that in here that I was like, okay, I mean, that's crazy. Like, to actually pull that off in a serious manner, that was crazy. But I have heard from some people that it's been good, that have been watching it. I think they're on episode 4 now. I might check out more episodes, but I wanted to talk about this because, I really thought this pilot was not that bad at all. Like, for network TV, for that standard, I thought it was pretty good, actually, and I think it's a really promising concept that, like I said, I mean, if you give this show 2 or 3 seasons, I mean, even just look at Manifest, right? When was that? I think it was 2018, and I talked a little bit about Manifest on the channel when it was airing. You even look at that show, like look at, the seasons that it got and built that. That's what these types of shows need, and that just doesn't happen anymore on network. So I'm hoping that NBC gives this, and the ratings for it have been pretty good actually so far. I think they've been pretty good. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens with the show, but I did really want to talk about it and kind of give it some credit that I think it's getting unfairly criticized for sure. For what it is. So we'll have to see. If I watch more episodes, I'll definitely come back and talk about them and see where we're at with the show. All right. So lastly, this week in TV, we got a lot here, but I do want to talk about The Righteous Gemstones Season 4 on HBO. So the premiere episode hit last night. I think it's called Prelude, right? So episode 1 of Season 4, the final season of Gemstones. This news was released about a month ago that it would be the final season. So kind of unfortunate. I've shared my thoughts on that in another video. On the channel, actually, if you want to hear my thoughts. But anyways, it is the final season, and so this episode, very fitting to go back and see who the first gemstone was, right? The first Eli gemstone, if you will. And what an episode of TV. Like, I will say it wasn't like insane to me. It wasn't like the best episode that Gemstones has ever done, anything like that. But what a swing. Like, for this episode, right? For Danny McBride, to write and direct this episode. And obviously, the elephant in the room, Bradley Cooper being the star of this episode is absolutely insane. And I did talk about that. I can't remember what video that was now, but I did mention that in the channel. I had read some rumors online. I think I was actually like people who worked on the show as crew kind of leaked this information that Bradley Cooper could be in the season of Gemstones. But I never thought it would be like this. I thought for sure it would just be kind of a cameo, maybe a couple scenes in an episode, and him playing this kind of like, crazy character in this Gemstones world that Danny McBride would write for him. And I was completely wrong, right? Like, this is the complete opposite of what I was expecting. I had a hint that Bradley Cooper was in the show, but to see him like this, and I will say, I'm just a little disappointed that we didn't get that version of Bradley Cooper. I thought he was really great in this episode, don't get me wrong. But I was kind of hoping that we would get more of kind of like an unhinged, if you've seen Licorice Pizza, the film from, Paul Thomas Anderson, right? A few years ago, he was in that and has, about almost like 10 minutes of screen time in the film, and he's unbelievably funny, like just absolutely hilarious, and playing just like the unhinged, just crazy person basically, and just leaning fully into the comedy. And that's kind of exactly what I expected him to do here, and I thought it would be so great, and maybe he has some scenes with Danny McBride and they could play off each other. I just saw some really great potential. So it doesn't look like we're going to get that, but what we did get is amazing. I mean, what an episode of TV. Yeah, it's just amazing. Like, Bradley Cooper was great. I mean, there was still a lot of great comedic moments in this episode, for sure. It was nice to see Josh McDermott, Eugene from Walking Dead, there in the beginning of the episode, and to see him sharing the screen with Bradley Cooper was surreal. I mean, that's crazy. But anyway, so yeah, it's just a really great episode. Obviously not much to do with the actual show and, our main characters of Judy and Jesse and Kelvin and Eli and everybody, but just a really fascinating episode. And this is something that I always, want to give Danny McBride and Jody Hill, David Gordon Green, and his writing team credit for, is these big swings, right? They do it almost basically every season. Maybe not quite this big of a swing, but every season they do swings like this that it's like, you just don't see this on any other television shows on the air within the last 5 years, right? Or however long Gemstones has been on. You even want to go back to Eastbound and Down, Vice Principals. They just deserve so much credit for taking these swings, and I think it really paid off in this episode. The directing here, so actually really great shots of kind of the action going on, and and then just a kind of a good redemption kind of story at the very end of the episode I thought was really good. And it perfectly captures what the Gemstones are, right? Is these people who are conniving, cut some corners here and there. But at the end of the day, they are good people, and they have that kind of seed of goodness in them. And so I think that just perfectly captures that, the first gemstone, right? The first Eli gemstone was exactly that. I mean, he fits that exact mold, and that kind of explains why they are the way that they are today. So, just a great episode of TV. Definitely, I would expect to see it, at the end of the year when I talk about my favorite episodes. I know it's early to say that, but I could see it definitely being in the conversation. All right, so that'll do it for this week in TV. Now let's get into our main topic and talk a little bit more about Suits LA as well. Okay, everything still going well here. The audio's all good. Okay, awesome. Okay. All right, so let's get into this. The problem with Suits LA and spinoffs. Okay. So I kind of touched on this a little bit before when I talked about Suits LA and my thoughts on the first couple episodes here, but let's start off with the problem with Suits LA, and then I'll kind of extend it to the broader range of spinoffs right now. So the problem with Suits LA right now is it is very similar to Suits, right? The original series, which is fine. Right? This is something I've seen, and I did my review for the pilot on the channel here, and I did see some people talk about this, it's too similar to Suits, or, it's the same thing of Suits, but I don't think that inherently is an issue, right? Yes, it's very similar to Suits. There are some differences as well, but it's very similar to Suits, but I think that's fine, right? But the problem here lies in that, yes, it's similar to Suits, but it's also about all different characters in a whole new setting, right? And so it's this combination that's just really strange to me to go at this show and take this approach to it, right? So there's not technically really a problem with being similar to Suits. But in that case, usually spin-offs or this type of approach to a series, okay, you would have Harvey in there, or you would have Mike in there, you'd have the original characters. And so, it would feel similar to Suits, and we would have the same characters here, and it would still be in, or at least not the same characters. Maybe it's still at, the firm, Pearson Hardman, or whatever it became at the end of the show of Suits, but, the main firm that they're at in New York. Right? And so you have these recognizable things in it. And so, it's going to be similar to Suits because it's, in the same setting where you have the same characters. But in this case, it's different characters, a whole different setting, right? They're trying to build up this different world, and yet it's still very similar to Suits. So I talked about this in my pilot review. I even brought up a tweet from Aaron Korsh who talked about this, and I've seen it since now in interviews. I think he's talked about it publicly, but before that, it was just a tweet that he sent. That I saw on his Twitter. But anyways, I don't think he deserves any blame for the way that the show has, been talked about and the approach that they kind of took with the show, it is almost 90% at least in the hands of NBC Universal for pushing Aaron Korsh in this direction, right? So basically he talked about in the tweet, if you hadn't heard, that he tried to write this show actually, and it was going to be different from Suits. It was, I believe they weren't even lawyers actually. I may have been mistaken on that when I first said that, or maybe they were, but the very first thing that he wrote, I think, was that they were all agents and not even, maybe some of them would have been lawyers, but not all of them. Anyways, and so he wrote this show and could not get it greenlit. Right? And that's a whole different conversation. Like, that's insane that the guy who created Suits brought NBC Universal so much success, even now, of course, with the residuals from Netflix and how it blew up there. For a guy like Aaron Korsh not being able to get an original story greenlit, in TV, that is absolutely insane, and that is just such a sad state of affairs to be in that world right now where that is reality. So anyways, so that was what he tried to do. He could not get it greenlit, and NBC Universal basically came back to him and said, no, make this more like Suits. Like, we basically just want Suits again. And that's the only way that he could get it greenlit to get the show on the air, or basically to get any other show on the air. And so, to me, I think all the blame lies on NBC Universal for taking this type of approach. And it's clear, right? They wanted to capitalize on the name of Suits, on the original show, while also trying to create a new show, right? And trying to do something different. And so that's the main problem here. And I'll talk about that with other spinoffs as well. But that's, I think, the main kind of focal point of this conversation is, well, and just a more broader conversation as well on IPs and franchises and all the stuff that's happening right now in movies and TV. But specifically with the spin-offs thing, it's that. It's they're trying to capitalize on the name. They're trying to, build that, audience based on brand recognition or name recognition of Suits. But they don't want to just do another season of Suits, right? They want to do a new show and, get this new show off the ground, get viewers for it. But they want to capitalize on that name of the original show. And so, instead of, trying, and I'll get to this later, but instead of trying to do, a new original show and get viewers and get people invested, no, we'll just do another Suits basically, and get Suits back on the air, but just with a slightly different package, and then put that on our network and air that, and watch the views come in because people know the name Suits. They see a show named Suits LA, and so they click on it and watch the show, and want to watch it, get invested, and all that. So that's the issue here. And I don't think Aaron Korsh deserves any or at least very little blame for this direction that they took with the show and for the way that this has all gone, which I think he has. And I think it's just unfair, if you read more into it and what happened. It's to me, all on NBC Universal for taking this type of approach with Suits. And yeah, it's clear that this is what they wanted to do, and that's why we've ended up with the show that is similar to Suits, but also trying to be different. And that combination just doesn't quite work. And I think that's the main problem here with Suits LA so far, right? And it looks like it'll continue unless the show, rapidly kind of changes direction here. Okay, so then let's extend this then to other spinoffs. So when you talk about spin-off shows, and of course I don't want to be really negative here because obviously there are some great spin-offs, and I'll get to that. This isn't, all spin-offs are bad. Certainly not, of course. But at the root of it, these spin-offs should come about because there is more story to tell about a character from the original series, right? Like I just said, a great example of a spin-off, perhaps the greatest spin-off in TV history probably, is Better Call Saul, right? At least in the drama space. You want to talk about comedy, something like Frasier probably comes to mind. But anyways, Better Call Saul, one of the greatest spin-offs ever made. And yeah, it's because you had something there to tell about a character from Breaking Bad, Saul Goodman, Jimmy McGill, in the case where they kind of go back in time. And there was more story to tell. There was something there where, we were really interested in that character from Breaking Bad. and there was just a lot more to him that we hadn't learned about or hadn't seen in Breaking Bad, that there was room there to explore in Better Call Saul. So again, Suits LA, there's not a single character, right, from Suits that we're bringing here. I mean, yes, technically Harvey is in there, so, we'll see where that goes, but it does kind of sound, it's just a limited arc that he's in the show. It's not a show about Harvey, obviously, right? And so that's the thing. We don't have any of the original characters really having at least a regular role in Suits LA. And then you want to look at the other way, perhaps it's a flashback or a different version of that character, right? Or of that kind of story, or at least kind of, within the same environment, within the same, world that everything is happening in. And so that, something like 1923 or 1883, the Yellowstone spinoffs came to mind when I was, when I was looking into that stuff, right? And so these feel like different shows, right? We don't have, technically the same, characters in these shows. It is different. You have, Tim McGraw in one of them, and Harrison Ford, I think, right, in the 1923. I haven't seen these shows, but I fell off of Yellowstone quite early, unfortunately. But anyways, and so you have these different shows, but they're still tied to the original characters or storylines from Yellowstone, right? The original series in this case. And so you have that tie back. You have that kind of something that is keeping you invested. Yellowstone, again, I fell off the show, but I'm pretty sure, they reference this stuff. They reference the past generations, the past timelines of things. And so then we get a show like 1923 where we've heard about this time period. Maybe we've heard about, Kevin Costner's, his dad or his grandpa, and what he went through within Yellowstone. And now in 1923, we see that. Now we're seeing that play out in a different show, and it's all connected some way, right? Again, you go back to Suits LA, and this is not the case, right? You don't have this where, yes, technically it's like in the same world because Harvey Specter is going to be in the show, and they've already referenced him in the first couple episodes here, with Ted being, a friend of Harvey. But I don't know. That's not the same thing, right? Like, that's not the same thing as something like, 1923, where we're seeing essentially different versions of these characters or different versions of the family at this point in time. And we're just kind of in a different time period. And it also, it's in that kind of Western vibe. And so you get the same, Taylor Sheridan writing it. And so it's in that same vibe. So, yeah, that's where I think spinoffs, thrive. That's where good spinoffs come from, is you have a character from the original show that you want to explore more, and now we're going to do a show just about that character. The Good Fight, right? Is that what it's called, The Good Fight? Which was the spinoff of The Good Wife, I believe. I hope I'm not getting that wrong, but anyways, I think it's The Good Fight is the spinoff, and that's another perfect example of this, and I've heard some really good things about that show, where, again, that's a character from the original series that we, saw enough of, but not all of that character. And so we want to learn more. And so now we're going to watch the spin-off, The Good Fight, and see that character more. Again, Better Call Saul comes to mind. Or you have this different version of the events of this original series. And so now we want to see that play out as well in something like 1923 or 1883 in the case of Yellowstone. And this is not, where Suits LA is coming from, right? We don't, like I said, we don't have a character from the original series coming in, at least playing a regular role, right, with Harvey coming in as kind of like a guest arc, whatever. And these are not events that were mentioned in Suits. Like, we're not flashing back. We're not, jumping forward in time. Like, yes, technically it's in the same world because Harvey exists, but we never heard of a guy named Ted Black in Suits, right? That's the difference here. Is, yes, if Ted Black, if Stephen Amell had, one season of Suits where he had a few episodes in there and, Harvey and him were friends and we got that kind of development for him, okay, that's a completely different story. And then, yes, it could feel very similar to Suits because it's a spin-off of Suits. We're seeing another character from the show come in here. Like, even Pearson, right? The other spin-off with Jessica that they did made more sense to me. And even that show felt very different, actually, from Suits, ironically. And, I just don't think it was that good. I think the writing was just a little weak. And I think it also came 2 years too late. It came, like, at the very end of Suits. And it was like 2 years after they first talked about doing the spinoff, and then it came out and the ratings were not very good for it. So that, but to me, that makes more sense. And they also did a backdoor pilot in the original series of Suits to that show. And so, again, I don't think you could complain about that one being similar to Suits, because it wasn't similar to Suits, and it had that backdoor pilot. And so, again, you don't have that with Suits LA. It's very painfully obvious that, yeah, Ted Black was never mentioned in Suits because he didn't exist, right? He only exists because Aaron Korsh made the show, and then obviously NBC Universal made him, tape the name Suits on it, and so now we have, he exists in the same world, but in reality, of course, when the original series was airing, he did not. So that is the problem, I think, with these spinoffs, and how Suits LA kind of represents the issue there with that, with that idea of creating these spinoffs right now. And so I guess this is also the thing, right? Obviously Suits exploded on Netflix. I think, that's, a lot of people discovered the show as a result of that, which is, I don't know. I think it's a little maybe overstated, because I think Suits was a pretty big show. Like when it was airing on USA Network, I don't know, at least maybe I was like a fan of it, so maybe that's just what I saw. But it was a pretty big show. I think a lot of people liked it. A lot of people knew about it before it came to Netflix. And, people make it sound like it just was a nothing show and it just suddenly exploded. Like it was a pretty big show for quite a long time. But anyways, it's clear that is a big part of what happened here, right? And so that's another thing I just wanted to say, is that these spinoffs should not come from a place just because the original series is, right, like it is popular, or in the case of Suits, just has become this big popular thing, and then these studios want to capitalize on the name of Suits because it has blown up. And that's exactly what has happened here with Suits LA, is again, Aaron Korsh, and the fact that Aaron Korsh also probably went to NBC Universal with an original idea. And so, yeah, here's the creator of Suits who wants to get another show on the air, and Suits just blew up on Netflix, and we got to get something out with the name Suits on it, and then they mesh that together. Like that's exactly basically the situation. I'm assuming, at least everything points to that. That's exactly what happened here. And that is not how spin-off series, at least good spin-off series, should come about. That's just not the place that they should come from. To me, I think this is just a lazy way to get clicks and viewers without making more original shows that get more engagement as time goes on. And I think we've seen many examples of this. Just this week, I saw this new Frasier revival, spin-off series got canceled, and they're trying to shop it around. And I thought I would kind of rope that into this discussion, with that being recent news. I think it was canceled maybe like a month ago or so, and now they're trying to shop it around, and something like that. It's like, again, they're just trying to capitalize on the name of Frasier and bring back now I'm forgetting his name. The guy on Frasier. I'm gonna look this up real quick. What is his name? This is crazy. What is his name? And I know his name too. I know his name, but Kelsey Grammer, right? Of course. So anyways, so they bring back the show of Frasier. They get Kelsey Grammer back. What are we doing, right? And then it gets canceled after 2 seasons, and they only did like 10 episode seasons too on Paramount Plus, and the ratings were not very good for it apparently. They're not public, of course, because it was on Paramount Plus, but not very good apparently. And it's like, what a shock, right? And that's the thing I've talked about on the channel before with this stuff, and this is just what seems to happen is, these networks, these studios, they get clicks, they get the immediate click, they get the viewers because of that name recognition, that IP recognition. Of course, there would have been a lot of people, right? A lot of people, older people probably, who loved Frasier back then. I think it ended in 2004, early 2000s. Went on for a lot of seasons. They see Frasier, they see Kelsey Grammer on their screen, they click, they watch the first few episodes. Yeah, maybe it's not very good, or it doesn't have that same magic, doesn't have that same charm. they kind of tune out of it, and then it gets canceled after just 20 episodes, while the original series had, like at least 100 episodes, probably maybe close to 200 or however long it ran. So, you just see this again and again with these shows, that, again, they get the immediate clicks. In the case of these streaming services, they get the subscribers, right? They get people to subscribe for a month to watch the new show. Maybe they watch a couple episodes of it, they fall off, and that's just the way it goes. Whereas you get more original shows that take time to get going, but you get a lot more engagement as time goes on with them. Because people get invested in them. They're good stories, they're original stories. And we've seen this again and again. I mentioned at the top with Fringe, right? Like, what a great example of a show. I go back to it again and again. Even Breaking Bad. I mean, you could go on and on about these shows that took a little to get off the ground, but as time has went on, they enjoyed a lot of success, and then now, even since then, even though they've been done airing, Fringe, I mean, you talk about, like, a lot of people still love that show. It's kind of viewed as a kind of a cult classic type of thing. Breaking Bad, of course, is absolutely massive. And so you get that engagement, that long-term engagement that you just don't get with these shows that are trying to, bring back this thing, this spinoff, because they're just trying to capture the name and try to capitalize on the, name recognition and the success of the original show. So that's what it is. That's what it is, and that is what's happening right now. It's very unfortunate. It's a sad state of affairs, but that is kind of where we are. That is the reality. That's kind of what's happening, and it's just, that's not where spin-offs should come, and that, to me, is the problem with spin-offs right now. Of course, like I said off the top, not all spin-offs are bad. You have shows like Better Call Saul, The Good Fight, even these 1923, 1883 shows for Yellowstone got very good buzz. A lot of critics, gave really great reviews of it. I've heard good things. So, there's lots of good spin-offs. When they come from the right place, they can enjoy a lot of success and they can be great. But when you have something like Suits LA, I don't know. I don't know, right? It's just, something's missing there. Something is missing there, and it's because it's not coming from the right place. It's coming from a place of trying to capitalize on that IP and get that name recognition, where, it's just not the right place where these spin-offs are coming from and developing from. So, anyways, that'll just about do it for my, thoughts on that, on spin-off shows right now, and, obviously how Suits LA kind of fits into that with it being on right now. So, yeah, love to hear your guys' thoughts, of course, on this, and, hear your thoughts, and I don't know, maybe, hopefully more original shows. I've been talking about this on the channel for the last year, basically, that more original shows will get greenlit and will kind of, bounce back from this whole IP franchise time period right now. And hopefully even more spin-offs come about, The Walking Dead, will we get some more spin-offs with that show? What are some other shows? I mean, they've talked about Stranger Things doing a spin-off now that the final season is airing this year. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see where these spin-offs go and kind of what the future holds for these spin-offs. But I'm just hoping and praying that we don't see more of these types of spin-offs like Suits LA. And again, I mean, I think there's still some positives for Suits LA. I'm going to still watch at least a few more episodes of it. I'm not completely trashing it and saying that it's like terrible, right? I'm just making the point of it came from the wrong place, so it's probably not going to enjoy that much success. So anyways, that's just going to do it for that one. So let's end off then our Let's Talk Television this week with some news topics here. So we have 3 articles here to get into. A couple of them are a little slightly outdated, but a week old. And then the one was just yesterday or the day before. And so we'll get into that one as well. Okay, so let's start off with the first one here. We have a comment here on the chat. Yes. Okay, let's go to here. Mav. Okay, I think that's Mav. Yep. It's so small. It's so small on the screen. I can barely see the chat thing. I gotta get a new function for stuff here to read the chat. But anyways, do you think Mike will be in the show? Is the question, right? Do you think? Yeah, Mike will be in the show. Yeah, I gotta get a bigger screen for this. It's like literally just like a small little panel on my screen here. But okay, do you think Mike will be in the show? Okay, so that's a good question. Do I think Mike will be in the show? I mean, I was a little surprised, to be honest, to hear that Harvey was in it over Mike. Just from the fact that Gabriel Macht has said publicly, I believe, that he's like effectively retired from acting. I don't think it's like a permanent thing, but just for right now in his life, he's just kind of taking a break and not really doing anything. I've seen him in some commercials lately. So he's obviously doing some work, pay the bills, even though he probably made a lot of money from Suits over the years. But anyways, so I was surprised to even hear that he was going to be in the show. I wouldn't be surprised if they offered him a lot of money to come back, and that's why he did it. And so, yeah, I was kind of surprised that, and I've heard Patrick J. Adams say in interviews that he's like, pretty, positive about doing it, about being in the show, and having a part in it. And, if you look at where he's at right now in his career, he hasn't had, I don't want to be, I don't want to be, mean or say anything like that. But, he hasn't been in a lot of things. It's not like he has a new show that he's starring in and that he's, and I do think he's been focusing more on kind of indie movies as well, to be fair. But anyways, it just seems like, yeah, it would be a great opportunity to have him in. I have read that some people have said that it would be tough because he's now living, with Rachel. And so it would be tough to have him in the show and just not have Rachel in it. You'd have to have some sort of explanation, especially if he's going to stay in a long time in Suits LA. Why is he just away from Rachel now and here in LA in this case? Because they're in Seattle, I want to say, right? I think that's where they were at the end of Suits, if I remember correctly. So anyways, I think there's definitely an opportunity, though, to have him in like one episode, right? Just like a short little thing to have him in there. But yeah, no, I was surprised that he isn't in the show. And who knows? Maybe he is. Like, maybe he is in the season and they're just kind of hiding it from us and keeping that a secret. We'll have to see. But I would be more inclined to see that kind of thing, right? Like where we get Harvey in here, maybe we get Mike in here. And so then it kind of makes sense that it has the name of Suits LA because we have more of these characters from the original show that are going to come in and play a part, and even like Rick Hoffman, to see Lewis come in and stuff. Like, I think there's lots of potential here. Unfortunately, with the way things are going, to be honest with you, like, I don't know if this is going to get renewed. Like, it really, I mean, the backlash in this, and like I said, I think it's way too overhated so far. I really do. But just with the reality of all the backlash that's gone, I just don't know if this gets another season. So unless it somehow gets renewed, I don't know. Or maybe they're hiding it from us. I just don't know that Patrick J. Adams is going to be in the show. Like, maybe he just won't even get an opportunity to be in it by the time it's canceled or finished. So, yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. I do really hope that he's in it, and I think that could be cool. But yeah, I'm just not sure if he'll get the opportunity even to do something like that. So I apologize, by the way, if I don't know if you're even still here or not when you made the comment, but yeah, I gotta kind of get a better chat thing so to be able to see this stuff more. But yeah, thank you very much for commenting and the question. But yeah, Mike will be in the show, so yeah, I'm hoping, man. I mean, I'm a diehard Suits fan. Like, I love Suits and I love Mike, so it would be really cool to see him in there. But we'll have to see. Okay, so with all that being said, like I said before that, we'll get into some news topics then, and I just want to make sure I don't miss any other chats or any other chats. No, I don't think so. Okay, all right, I think that yeah, that was it. Okay. So let's get into the news topics then. So this one is on TV Line, and as always, guys, the links for all these articles that I talk about here are already in the description of the video, where they should be at least. Hopefully they are. I think they are. Anyways, they should be in the description. So if you want to check out any of these, just feel free. I even put in brackets like what each article is. So definitely go down there and read some more, because I'm not going to read every word of these articles, obviously. So if you want to learn a little more, there you go. All right, so Owen Wilson's Apple TV Plus golf comedy Stick lands summer premiere date. So this is from TV Line article here. And this is a show that I heard about a little bit before this article came out, that Owen Wilson was going to be in this new Apple TV Plus show. And I didn't know it was about golf though. And so that's kind of an interesting twist into things here. So anyways, let's read a little bit from the article here. Summer is prime golf season, and Owen Wilson is teeing off on Apple TV Plus this June. So that's the premiere date. I'm not sure if they've gotten an exact episode. Yeah, so they say, Wilson plays a former pro golfer who trains a young phenom in the show titled Stick, which premieres Wednesday, June 4th. So June 4th on the streamer with the first 3 episodes. And then Apple TV Plus has also released a number of first look photos, which you can see in this article. So again, if you like to, you can click on the article there, and I'll probably put a few pictures up here or in the thumbnail, whatever. So there you go. So Stick stars Wilson as Price Cahill, whose golf career went down the tubes years ago, and he was now facing divorce and unemployment. He sees a way out, though, in a gifted 17-year-old golfer named Santi, played by Peter Dagger. Dagger. The result is a heartfelt, feel-good comedy about a found family and a relationship set within the world of golf as it has never been seen before. So that's the official synopsis, I suppose, for this. And a really big thing about this is that Timothy Olyphant is going to be in the show as well. Jody Greer as well, it looks like, will also be in here. And then we also have real-life golfers that they're going to get to be, as guest stars here in some episodes. And so they're going to play into that, right? It's going to be a bit of that meta thing where Owen Wilson obviously is an actor, but he's going to be playing a real guy. And so he's going to, be friends with these real golfers. So they're going to play into that. So June 4th is when this is coming out, which is crazy, by the way, how far ahead we are that they're already saying release date for this. But yeah, so cool stuff. And the one thing, though, I have to say, yes, I'm obviously very intrigued. Huge Owen Wilson fan. But can we pick a better title for this? Really? It's called Stick? I don't know. This has been a thing. We also have this, the new Apple show, I think it's this week coming out. It's literally just called Dope Thief. Because, the whole show is about them stealing dope from a guy. Same with the new Jon Hamm Apple show that's coming out next month. Called Your Friends and Neighbors. What a kind of weird title. It's long and it doesn't really describe what the I don't know. There's been a few titles now with Apple that I'm just really? I don't know. What are we doing? And there's a chance it gets renamed too. We're a far ways out. But anyways, Stick is what it's called for now. And Owen Wilson is starring in it along with Timothy Olyphant and Judy Greer. Looks like those will be the main stars of this one. And then we'll obviously get those real golfers in. So I'm not a huge golf fan. But if you are, I'm sure that they'll probably lean into a lot of that stuff. And you'll probably get a lot more out of the real golfers being in here. So if you're a fan of golf, then obviously I think you're going to like this one a lot. The only thing, by the way, that also, besides the title, that also rubs me a little bit of wrong way here is the fact that it says feel-good comedy. That, to me, could be a slight red flag, just for me. And I know a lot of people, like that kind of thing, and that can be fine for some people. But to me, I just feel like sometimes that misses the mark, and when it misses the mark, it just becomes a little kind of, I don't want to say cringe, but it's, it's kind of a fine line there, I think, to really make a kind of feel good. Something like Ted Lasso comes to mind, right? It's hard to achieve that. And then when you don't get to that kind of line that you want to balance there, it just kind of gets a little too sappy and too melodramatic, at least for me. And, again, maybe that's fine. Some people do like that, and they're like, yeah, well, it's fine. It doesn't have to be, a super serious thing, and maybe we can kind of, play with that, and you're into that. And so that's fine. So that's the only thing I'd be maybe a little concerned about with the show is it's a feel-good comedy. And again, Owen Wilson, for my 2 cents, I like him in stuff like Wedding Crashers and this kind of thing where he can just go all out. And I don't think that's what we're going to be seeing in this show, with it being described as a heartfelt comedy. So that's just my thoughts on this one. We'll have to see. Of course, I could be completely wrong, and it could be a different show than what it sounds like. But anyways, Stick, for right now, that's the title. It premieres June 4th Apple TV Plus there. All right. So I'll do it for the first news topic then. And then next, we have The Walking Dead, Dead City. This article from IGN. So, The Walking Dead, Dead City Season 2 premiere release date confirmed. And again, this is an IGN article here. And we'll read just a little bit of this one. The Walking Dead, Dead City Season 2 has a premiere release date. And it is May 4th. 2025, so May 4th. It says IGN showed off a clip, so there is a clip, and I think it's the first minutes of Dead City Season 2 as well. I'm not sure if that was released with this or maybe a little bit before, but you can go ahead and watch the first minutes of Season 2 as well. And then, so we have some quotes and stuff from Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Lauren Cohen, of course, that, kind of talk about some of the stuff of their characters and all this stuff. And we do get a little quote from Gimple, which I thought was worth noting here. So it says, Gimple also discussed the conflict going into Season 2. There is no single big bad, he said. There's a lot of shifting as far as the power ranking for the season. It isn't all antagonistic. It's a little more complex like that. It's a little more political, and then we get kind of physical. So, I don't know. It's kind of a weird quote, right, from Gimple, but interesting nonetheless to learn that there's not really a big bad. And this makes sense from what kind of, at least for me, like what I've heard, what just kind of reading the tea leaves, and obviously after Season 1 where we left off, it sounds very much like Negan is going to be playing this kind of anti-hero where we're going to see him, kind of the shades of Negan again, but I don't think he's going to go full Negan again, though I would kind of like that actually. But, it's going to be that kind of power dynamic, that struggle, right, for power with him, the Dama, and the Croat, right? And so I think it's going to be that kind of dynamic is going to play out a lot. And so I think that's what Gimple is hinting at here, that there's no single big bad. In the case of the Croat in Season 1, for example, I think it's just going to be the kind of dynamics there. And then obviously Maggie is going to factor in and, and have to, I guess rescue Negan. I guess that's the idea of what the season, has in store, what the story is. But there's 8 episodes, so it seems like there's going to be obviously more conflict than just Maggie going back to rescue Negan, which I'm also very optimistic about. I think it getting 8 episodes is a really great sign for AMC to give the show another couple episodes, whereas they only had 6 in Season 1. All the other spinoffs so far have only had 6 episodes. So I think them giving Dead City another 2 episodes to really go here, I think is a really good sign. Now again, maybe we just get 2 more episodes of filler and it was just a waste. Like, we don't know, but I do like that. I like that because I feel like that's been an issue in the other seasons of these spinoffs, definitely the ones who live. But we've had like pacing issues, right? Like, it feels like at times that it's not enough episodes. Sometimes it feels like too many because they are trying to, drag things out, and shouldn't really be a 6-episode story. And then, the ones who live is kind of like, yeah, this was like a 20-episode story condensed into 6. So it feels like they just haven't really found their way. And so something like this where we have 8 episodes, it feels a little more complete. And so hopefully they can flesh out a bigger story here, but not get too big. And so I don't know. Hopefully it's a good balance, of everything, and they give a couple more episodes here to Dead City. And, I honestly am pretty optimistic. This is probably the most optimistic I've been about a Walking Dead spinoff, like even more than the ones who live, I think. Honestly, for some reason, I'm kind of excited for this one. Obviously, being a huge Walking Dead fan, but I've went into all these spinoffs with like a little bit of cautiously optimistic, right? But no, I have really high hopes for this season. So if this season ends up being like Daryl Season 2, I'm going to be pretty disappointed. I'm going to be honest, because I do have high hopes for this one. So anyways, May 4th is the premiere date for Dead City. And I didn't even really go into that here, but yeah, premiere date May 4th. That is pretty good. I did think it would be in June, so I am happy that we're getting it a little sooner than what I thought. So we'll probably get this one in May, and then of course Daryl Season 3 sounds like it's on, everything's on schedule there. So we'll probably get that in September or October. And that'll probably be it for the Walking Dead shows this year. I have heard some rumors, at least around, that we are going to get another spinoff happening soon. That they are going to announce another spinoff, maybe at Comic-Con this year. So that's pretty cool. We'll have to see, what that is, what that ends up being, or if it's even true. Who knows? But yeah, so this year at least for 2025, Dead City in May, Daryl Dixon in the fall, yeah, we'll hopefully get all of our Walking Dead fill with these two shows. So May 4th is Dead City, and I'll definitely cover it on the channel in some way, shape, or form. I'll talk about and share my thoughts on that for sure. So stay tuned on the channel if you're interested in that. All right. So that'll just do it then for The Walking Dead, Dead City, and we'll go into that one for sure. Share my thoughts on that when the time comes around. All right. So to end things off, then let's get into the final article here, and this is just a quick one. This is on Deadline. Just wanted to share this because I thought this was really cool, and this is about Sugar. So this was a top 5 TV show for me last year. I thought season 1 was really great, just really impressive, and just the kind of artful approach to it. I thought just the crafts of the whole show was just really great, a really visually appealing show, and I thought it was just really a well-written show, a really cool twist that was very ambitious. So anyways, I have high hopes for season 2 of the show, though I'm not sure that we needed it. I'm not sure exactly where they're going to go with this one, but, we are getting a season 2. It's been renewed. It's happening. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm very curious to see where they're going to go with it. Now, the biggest news here, though, is that we have some casting announcements for season 2, which the casting announcements, which I'll get into in a second here, are great. But this also means that we are full steam ahead on season 2 and really getting it going here, because usually when you hear casting announcements, that means it's pretty close usually to going into production for the next season, or at least that, scripts are done, this kind of thing. So anyways, just generally it shows good signs that season 2 is on the way. I would doubt, especially with this just coming out now, I would doubt that we get season 2 in 2025 this year, but because the renewal announcement came pretty late too. But I will say, probably 2026, first half of 2026, probably sounds like that's when it'll be. Anyway, so the big news here is the casting. So the Sugar has added 3 new series regulars for next season, including we have Jin Ha, who is in Pachinko, and I think the movie Civil War, it says here. I've not watched Pachinko. I have heard some great things, so perhaps if you watch that, you would know him. Laura Donnelly from The Nevers and Say Nothing. I'm not familiar with her. And the big name, the big one, the reason I wanted to talk about this is Tony Dalton from Better Call Saul, and he was also in Hawkeye recently. I love this. I absolutely love this casting. I love to see Tony Dalton in another show. Of course, he played Lalo Salamanca in Better Call Saul. And even, that was in 2022, but I expected to see him in more. I guess he got the role in Hawkeye after Better Call Saul. But, man, I just really want to see this guy in more things. I really kind of hope he's playing a villain type of character again, like he did in Saul. It does say here, actually, it does give some details about their characters. It says Tony Dalton will play a lieutenant in the LA County Sheriff's Department. So that's interesting. He's playing basically a cop in the show. And so I'm not sure if that'll necessarily be a villain character. Obviously, it'll kind of be an antagonist because, with the plot of the show, I'm not going to spoil anything if you haven't watched it. But, the plot of the show is he'll probably be against the cops. He's trying to cover stuff up, and the cops will obviously want to get to the bottom of it. So yeah, I think he might be an antagonist. I don't know if he'll be like a villain, but yeah, I'm excited for this. A show like Sugar that I loved, and then to have Tony Dalton in it, I think is just such a really great combination. And so yeah, I'm really looking forward to this, to see him in this, and the other actors as well. I've heard good things, and they say in this article about their success, and it says Donnelly's a woman who is immune to Sugar's charms, and Ha will play a boxer who gets caught up in the wrong crowd. So yeah, interesting stuff there for those ones. But yeah, Tony Dalton in Sugar Season 2. This is just amazing news. So really looking forward to his character and obviously Season 2 of the show. Definitely looking forward to that one. So anyways, that'll just about do it then. Like I said, you can take a look at the description for those links to all the articles if you're at all interested for sure. So yeah, that'll just about do it, guys. We are, around the same time, a little overtime actually for these episodes. So yeah, I think that'll do it. We went over all the main topic. I said all I needed to say, probably too much on that. Went over all the news topics and all that. Let me check the chat again here just to make sure that we have everything here. Yeah, I think that is everything. But I really got to look at getting a better chat system to respond. I hope that wasn't like a long time between me answering the question. But anyways, it is what it is. I wonder if you can see. Yeah, okay. We'll take a look at that after. But anyways, I'll work on the chat for next episode. So hopefully it'll be next week. For next episode, if we have enough to talk about again, we'll have another couple new shows to talk about that premiered last night. Dark Winds Season 3 came out, so there's just a whole lot of stuff to talk about and a whole lot of shows to watch. It's overwhelming, honestly, at this point. But anyways, guys, that'll just about do it for this episode of Let's Talk Television. So thank you guys for all tuning in. Really do appreciate it. Turning in live and then obviously afterwards. Really do appreciate that as well. So that'll do it, guys. So thank you guys so much for watching this one. And we'll see you then hopefully next week for more